Hello, all. Welcome to another episode of DirectShift Stories. This is Raj, your host, and today we have Dennis Strenk with us. Um, Dennis is the creator of People of Pathology. He had amazing journey for a couple of decades in the world of pathology. In fact, he is working as pathologist assistant for close to 2 decades, I would say, close to 18 years now.
Right.
And for past 3+ years, he had worked at Wisconsin Diagnostic Laboratories in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Dennis also serves as one of the Board of Trustees for American Association of Pathology Assistants, and is the CFO of the Board of the Trustees. Dennis, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so I would request anybody who's watching this live, or if you're watching the replay, do let us know in the comments as to anything that would specifically interest you. So, Dennis, to begin with, I'm a little excited about the kind of podcast which you already had done. And the one question which would always be in my mind is with respect to how you plan, how you schedule, or probably what kind of research you do in terms of continuing with the People of Pathology podcast. I'm very excited about the number of downloads too. So could you please
Yeah.
share us your journey as to what keeps you going with the People of Pathology podcast and with everything?
Yeah. So the podcast started. I think I first had the idea for it in sometime in the summer of 2019, and I was talking with a friend of mine who's also a pathologist assistant, and we were just talking about podcasts because we were both, we both listen to a lot of the same ones, and we were talking about how there really wasn't one for people like us, for people in pathology that worked in the medical laboratory. And she said, well, you should start one. And I thought, oh, okay. And she said, well, what sort of format would you want it to have? And a lot of my favorite podcasts are interview based. And I like that kind of thing, just kind of learn more about the people. And some of them are, authors and things like that. And they tell their story about how they wrote the book and those kind of things. So that's the kind of format I wanted to use. And she said, well, I'm working on a book right now. You could interview me for practice, just to get the hang of it. And so I said, all right. So I started researching, well, what do you need? You need, a microphone, right? You need, headphones, some way to record. And I just started doing some research, and I found out that it wasn't that hard. And the equipment that you needed, I mean, the microphone I have is like $70 on Amazon or something like that. The software to record was, it's cheap. There's lots of options for things like that right now. And then some way to edit it. And then, a hosting platform, things like that. So I found out these things were not that hard. They weren't that expensive, but they weren't that hard to use. So we picked a time, we did the interview, and that was the first episode. And if you listen to it, because it's still up on the hosting site, it doesn't sound great, but it was a start. So
Okay.
So that's how it started.
And do you also play any musical instrument? I'm just asking because you started at summer of 2019.
I do actually. I play guitar.
Oh,
So,
really? Okay.
yeah. So that was a little bit of the sound part of it. I was already used to, you record yourself playing whatever
The garage
song.
sound, the garage
Garage band.
sound, the garage band player, the software.
Right.
I mean, people with the background in sound, or people with background in post-production would understand what we are speaking. Normally, it would be tough for any clinician out there to understand what GarageBand is. Somebody who has their own private practice wouldn't know the technical details of sound production or the audio video production.
Right.
So that's awesome, Dennis. In fact, okay, that's one of the best ways to begin, because at some point you have to start.
Hmm.
Um, so could you please share us, now coming back to the clinical world, because we at DirectShifts help clinicians connect to employers with the power of technology by using our AI job board. Again, we keep telling many of our guests that artificial intelligence is one of our key element, one of our core strengths with the kind of technology software which we had created. So, could you please share us, why did you choose the world of pathology? I know you've been working as a pathology assistant, but what intrigued you to get into this world of pathology?
That's actually a funny story. I went to college. I majored in biology, and at the time, I wanted to get into microbiology. I remember, and I tell this story to a lot of people. In one of the biology classes, there was a unit or a chapter or whatever it was in one of the lab classes on histology, and so we examined organs and we looked at microscopic slides. And I remember thinking, this is stupid. Why would anyone want to do this for a job? It turns out that's what I do for a job. So I got out of college and I ended up getting a job in a hospital lab in the histology department as a lab assistant. Didn't know anything about histology, but I found then I was working with a pathologist assistant, and she would show me some things, and I would ask her questions. What are you doing there with that organ, and why are you cutting it that way, and what are you looking for, and things like that. And um, she started teaching me some things, and then I learned how to, kind of the slang word we use is grossing. So it's gross examination, um, or macroscopic examination of the specimen. So we just call it grossing. That's what everybody calls it. And she started teaching me how to gross, biopsies and things like that, smaller specimens. And that's kind of how I started. And then when she left, she took a job somewhere else. And the pathologists that were there at the time, they said, they noticed that I was interested, and they said, we can teach you some of this stuff, the rest of how to do the rest of the more complicated specimens. And so they did. And at that time, so right now, to be a pathologist assistant, it's a master's degree program. And I think
Wow.
there's, yeah. Um, but at the time when I did this, so this was early 2000s,
Oh,
and
okay.
you could learn on the job. It was like you had to train for 3 years under a pathologist, and then you were eligible to take the same exam that the people that graduated from the programs
Okay.
also took. So that's what I did at the time. I learned on the job, and then took the exam and passed the exam, and that was it. Um,
So, did we interview this person who gave you the opportunity to become a pathologist so far on People of Pathology?
no, no, but I am still in touch with her.
Okay,
She's still a good friend.
probably.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Probably we should hear her story as well, because many of us as kids or teenagers, it's always our parents who would influence us to take up the profession. But I would
yeah,
suggest probably this would be one of your mentors or great teachers, or
yeah.
somebody who gave you the opportunity. And opportunity is always a great beginning.
Hmm.
Um, and for over 2 decades, or probably 17, 18 years, I know how it had changed your life.
It really
So,
has. It was just a matter of I was in the right place at the right time and took advantage of the opportunity that kind of fell into my lap. Um, so yeah, and it's interesting though that pretty much all of the interviews that I do on the People of Pathology podcast, they start with kind of everybody's sort of origin story. How did you get interested in pathology? How did you, whether they're a pathologist or a pathologist assistant like me, and or anybody else, how did you get started? So that's always enjoy that part, and a lot of people have a similar story to mine.
Yeah, and also I see that normally you all the almost all the podcasts which I listened to, or probably a couple of them. Again, it's all the other pathologists from the people from the world of pathology whom you communicate to. But if there is a youngster, what advice would you give a young physician out there who's aspiring to become a pathologist?
Um, you know, there are, we always need more pathologists. There's a shortage of pathologists. There's a real big shortage of forensic pathologists, and it's a great field. I mean, I get to see interesting things every single day. Where I work now, Wisconsin Diagnostic Laboratories, we're affiliated with a major cancer center, and so we see it's incredible the complexity of the specimens that we get, um, and I love it. I love working there, and it's just a really great field to be in. Um, I mean,
Okay.
I can't recommend it enough.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, though at the beginning of your career, it was more of the necessity for getting the work done, which made you get into this again. There is a huge need always. Again, it's an ocean full of opportunities worldwide, not
Right.
only in US, for anybody who needs to become or anybody who's aspiring to become a pathologist. So, thank you so much for sharing the insights. And again, people would be always wondering, there are no jobs, there is no work, and people would be always complaining online that nobody's hiring them. But there is great opportunity for youngsters who would like to put in that dedication or that commitment or little effort
Hmm.
to get their licensure. Like, do we have a licensure exam like the way other social workers complete or put in that extra work?
Not for pathologist assistants. We have a certification exam. We're certified through, it's called ASCP, the American Society for Clinical Pathology, which most other lab professions are certified through them also. So it's not a license. It's like it's a national certification. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So, have you done any locums, Dennis?
I haven't. That would probably be. I mean, I've got a steady full time job right now. You know, maybe
Okay.
sometime in the future, you know, nearing retirement or something like that. But I know a lot of people that do, and they are not hurting for work. You know, there's always a need for a pathologist assistant or any kind of lab the position. There's always a need.
Oh, okay. I believe that retirement is something which is like on our daily work, maybe something which we love doing every single day. I guess we can call it retirement because we love doing it. It doesn't feel like work day in and day out. I mean, that's kind of my perspective. But
Sure.
if there is any myth about this particular industry or profession that you want to debunk, is there anything which you'd like to debunk?
Yes, there is the myth that people in the lab or even pathologists in general are introverts. They're, you know, socially inept, things like that, which is not the case. A lot of the pathologists I know are the funniest people I've ever met. They've got the most personality. The ones that I work with, you know, now for the past 3 years, they're great. And um, you know, I get along with them very well. So that's one of the things. You know, pathology is often in the tucked away in the basement of the hospital, you know, kind of away from everything else, and it, you know, it has that sort of reputation. But it's fun people to work with. I love the people that I work with.
Yeah, I guess a couple of the social skills come from playing the guitar or probably listening to music. Or again, you are absolutely right. People think that lab people are probably um, anybody in the world of pathology or being a pathology assistant. They spend most of the time alone with the devices or with the
Right.
body tissues and all that. But definitely, it's kind of therapy, I would say, like kind of meditation, because when you are meditating or when you are in therapy, you're all alone by yourself. Probably that could be healing or it could be anything. So
Hmm.
you get lots of time for yourself. That's biggest advantage, because I see people in sales, I see people in marketing that they're always disturbed by too many things, too many notifications, too many things to stay away from. It's like there's so much of noise, there's so much of distraction, and people are unable to concentrate. I guess being a pathologist assistant, the world probably this particular profession is like it could be a blessing for few, because they have their own time apart from doing what they love. They have most ideal time, I would say. So did you face any failures, or as you were going through your career, probably in the first 5 years, 10 years, did you have a tough past, or were there any failures with your profession? uh, are there any things which you learned from it?
Oh, certainly the first, those training years, the first 3 were very difficult. I mean, I had to learn a lot of things I had to learn. I had like a knowledge of basic anatomy, but I had to learn really specific things, and how to dissect certain organs and what kind of sections that you needed to take and things like that. So I had to learn everything, and I think everybody, even if you're going through the master's program now, that's part of learning the job, and just uh, the volume of and the variety of things that you will see and have to know how to handle. Um, and even now, I mean, 18 years in, I'm still learning more things because standards change, and the way you, for example, staging of a cancer specimen, that can change over time as you learn more. There's more research in molecular techniques and things like that. Things change over time, and you constantly have to keep up with those changes. So
Oh,
it's mhm,
really? Okay.
mhm.
I thought it was one of the easiest jobs because you've been doing the same thing again and again and again.
I mean,
But
partially, yeah, partially. They don't, details change, but the basic procedures and things like that pretty much stays the same.
oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And uh, are there any great resources that have helped you along the way, apart from, I know YouTube or Google is one of the greatest resources, but do you have anything? Anything specific like people of pathology? I guess it's all podcasts, but are there any other resources which you would like to share with anybody who's aspiring to be out there?
Yes, there. So you mentioned the people, and actually the people that the other pathologist assistants that I have met and that I know, they've been a great resource for me. In fact, about a year into my training, they hired another pathologist assistant. She was program trained, and she was great. I learned a lot from her, and we're still good friends. So that's one. And the organization that I belong to, the American Association of Pathologist Assistants, that's a great resource. We have there's like a grossing. It's called a grossing guidelines. So it's like a standard of how to handle different types of specimens, which is a project that I'm partially involved with. But that's a great resource because it constantly gets updated as things change, and then you can read about the changes, and different things you need to do to accommodate those things. So that's another resource. There's all kinds of manuals and things like that. Um,
Okay.
you know,
I was just searching for this American Association of Pathologist Assistants. I
yeah,
guess this is the one.
yeah, there it is.
Um,
Another great resource, actually, and early on, and still now to a certain extent, it is Twitter. So the
oh,
pathology community on Twitter is huge, and that's
really?
how. Mhm. That's how I found a lot of my guests early on. Oh, and I still do. And you can learn uh, a lot from the people there. A lot of pathologists. There's a lot of pathologist assistants, various other people, and um, they have uh, kind of monthly journal clubs, they call them, for different specialties. I guess they're virtual journal clubs where you kind of meet together at the same time and discusses particular journal article and things like that. People put up, photos of the week or photo of the day or whatever, and you can discuss, what do you think this is? What's the diagnosis? Things like that. So it's there's a lot to be learned from that.
Okay, so this reminds me of the next question, which I'm just seeing on the screen. So this is 2023. This is way forward. Oh God, this is like, so they've planned like 2 years ahead. There is an annual spring meeting for in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I guess that's way too forward. I was expecting
Right.
sometime in May 2021, but
We actually have, well, there are 3 planned meetings through the AAPA. So there's the spring one, like you're showing there. We had the fall one is the big one. And then it was supposed to start this year, the summer meeting, but that had to be postponed until next year, because
oh,
of,
okay.
COVID and
I mean,
whatnot.
this is such a vibrant community. I've never seen. I mean, of all the other physicians whom we had interviewed, in fact, almost all of them, be it National Association of Social Workers or be it physicians from with family medicine background or be it other clinicians, I see this particular community is quite vibrant, um,
Yep.
and also everybody's raising out their voice or opinion or helping the community members. Okay, sorry about the wind in the background, but this is amazing. So with, I mean, that brings me to the next question for the day, for this particular show right now. Who are the most 3 influential people in your life? I mean, for past 4 decades or 5 decades, whatever. I would say 4 decades. Who
Um,
are the most three most influential people in your life so far?
so far, you mean like professionally or personal life or both?
I guess both would be an interesting answer because both normally we pick parents always.
Sure.
It would be great if you could answer both professionally and personally. Mm.
I mean, all right. Definitely my parents. I mean, they were supportive of me along the way. They still are. I told them about this thing tonight, and they're very excited about it. So,
Thank you.
so that kind of thing. My wife for sure. I mean, she's a dental hygienist, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, which she went to school for. In the time that we've been married, so I got to see her kind of pursue this goal for herself. And she's as passionate about dentistry as I am about pathology, so it's interesting for the two of us to talk and have similar experiences in our jobs. I mean, she loves what she does as much as I do. So that one. um, and there was a pathologist early on that when I was training, his name is Phil Harity, and he um, kind of took me under his wing and was, said, okay, I'm gonna make sure that you learn all of the things that you need to know. And he did, and he was a really nice guy, and I could always go to him with questions and things like that. And he eventually left, and I wasn't even finished training yet. He moved back to Michigan, and
Oh, okay.
he came back to visit us one day. And in that time, I had finished the training and taken the exam, and passed and had the certification then. And he came back, and we all went out for a drink or whatever. And I said, Dr. Harity, I passed my exam. I'm a real PA now. And he said, and I'll never forget this. He said, you always were. You just didn't have the credentials yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, he already had seen that strength or probably those flying colors. It's only the probably a piece of paper which would allow us to work. Okay.
Right.
I could. That's amazing. I mean, normally the mentors would foresee what we would come up with. It's like probably we may not call it being Nostradamus or predicting the future,
Mm-hmm.
but again, either it's your mother, probably it's a mom, or it's probably it's our parents, or probably it's a mentor or teacher from high school, or somebody from college, or it could be somebody who mentored us during the initial days of our job, somebody
Right.
who could predict what we could be in the long run. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing the. Do we have any other influential people whom we need to highlight or speak about?
I mean, there's so many, and it's still, still happens to this day. I meet people, I learn things from them. Um, yeah, that's an endless list.
So
And
if yeah, I'm sorry. Please continue.
oh, I was going to say, even people that I interview on the podcast, some of them I've become friends with, and they have an influence on me as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like so. All these other friends or colleagues or co-workers or again well-wishers, even if you had to do 100, 500, or 1,000 podcasts, what is the problem which you're most passionate about solving? What is the problem which you're trying to solve here?
I want one of the major reasons for starting the podcast was to bring attention to these different areas, these different fields, pathology. I talked with histotechs, cytotechs, pathologists, forensic pathologists, all different areas of forensic science. And I want to bring attention to these areas because, when I was in high school, in college, and things like that, a lot of these things I never heard of. And I feel like if I had, I might, I'd be doing those different things. And so, um, that's something that I really am passionate about
Okay.
doing, and that's why I keep going with the podcast.
So it's like kind of creating more of awareness so that the people in the early education
Hmm.
know the opportunities or know what can work out for their career. Again,
Right.
many people miss out on the opportunities because they are not aware of it, or they didn't have somebody who could guide them. Okay, that's
Right.
awesome.
Hmm.
So if again, as you mentioned, you missed on those opportunities. If so, if there is an advice for Dennis at the age of 15 or Dennis at the age of 20, what advice you would give to your younger self?
Pay attention more in the histology unit in the biology class. That no,
Okay.
um, because it turned out that was the information I really could have used. Um, no, I don't know. Everybody says follow your passion and things like that. And for me, this was something that when I got into the field, it was just because I needed a job, and I learned to love it later. I mean, not much later, but later. So I think that's one thing. Like, if you have an interest in something, check it out, follow it, see where it goes, and if it works for you, great. And if you learn to love it, even better. And if it doesn't work out, then do something else. And that's not an option for everybody. But if you can do it, uh, I think you should.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Again, when you mention passion, this reminds me of the next question around guitar being your passion. I would probably I could visualize myself, Dennis, being a rock star. Um,
Oh yeah.
but you have to give me a different answer for this question. What would you do with your career apart from being a pathology assistant or being a rock star?
Okay. Um, I actually just recently I talked with a forensic artist, and I said to her, if I had known about this career when I was in high school, that's probably what I would be now, because I loved art. I loved drawing and painting and things like that. So probably that's what I would be doing. I think I would be an artist. I
Wow.
wanted to be like a cartoonist for a while too, which never panned out, but something like that, or
Wow. Yeah.
or definitely a
I
rock
mean,
star.
yeah, this also reminds me of another physician. I guess he does lots of cartoon characters among other clinicians, and whatever which is not being spoken about in the world of hospitalization or in the healthcare sector. Normally, he would create caricatures or he would cartoon them, and he would put a dialogue around them, uh, like these comics.
Okay.
So that's amazing. I mean, that I mean, your answer reminds me of that particular person. So probably this would be the last question for the day. In fact, we can go on and on. Um, but if you had $100 million to
Oh boy.
spend on health tech, be it artificial intelligence. In fact, we were supposed to speak about the use of artificial intelligence in
Uh-huh.
the pathology world. Would you like to speak about that? Normally, I do not have much knowledge uh, with AI being used in the world of pathology, but do you have anything to highlight before I pop up this question on the screen?
If I had $100 million,
No, I mean,
or
again, with
okay,
with respect to artificial intelligence
okay,
being used for the world of pathology.
yeah, there's quite a bit. It's not not in widespread use right now, but there's a lot of things on the horizon that are really interesting. It's funny though. I read something just the other day where it said in medicine it shouldn't be artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence,
Okay,
because
yeah.
it doesn't replace the doctor, um, or the person, but it helps. It like increases their knowledge or helps their abilities, that kind of thing. So, and that made a lot of sense to me, and it's especially true in pathology. We use voice recognition software. That's a form of AI, but there's a lot of things in the image analysis area that are, they're not approved for use, most of them, and it's fascinating just the potential for these things. And I think definitely within my career, I'll see all of these things start to become more used, and it's
Oh, okay.
amazing. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned augmented reality. Then, apart from being the virtual reality or the VR, again, the
Right.
augmented reality or the VR, artificial intelligence, and all that. So, coming back to the question, which I missed, as in, if you had 100 million to spend on health tech, be it in terms of pathology and no red tape, how would you spend it?
Okay, I've actually thought about this one. Uh, I would. So there's a sort of a subfield of pathology, digital pathology, which is you scan the slides and they become digital images, and you can view them on a computer screen instead of in a microscope. And if I had $100 million, what I would do is develop this technology so that it could be used in remote areas. There are a lot of countries, and I'm learning about this as I interview people from Africa and India and other countries, South America, things like that, where in the remote areas there aren't any pathologists.
Yeah, very true.
Right. So if you've got this sort of slide imaging software or device or whatever, you could go to these remote places and image these slides. You'd have to, of course, create the slides and pretty much probably create a whole lab, but you could do it and then transmit the images to a pathologist in the US or wherever, England, and then they could make a diagnosis for someone that's, on the other side of the world. So that's what I would do with that kind of money. Um, create the technology that could be used to do that kind of thing, to bring uh, pathology diagnosis to more people.
Yeah, and I was just when you mentioned digital pathology,
Yep,
I was just checking if there is an association or probably something,
there sure
and
is.
that is, yeah, Digital Pathology Association, and this is actually the need, or probably this is where the future is going to. We all know about information technology, we know about artificial intelligence, or we know about again the field of computer science, which is evolving on a every single day basis. Uh, but everybody in rural healthcare, probably people in the remote areas, they do not have access to um, this particular invention, or probably many in India for sure. I know for the
Hmm.
fact that even to get my CBP, or even if I need to get my reports done, I need to go a couple of miles. And if I am in my town, or even if I am in my village or the place where I was born and brought up, I'm sure there's no access for something
Right.
which is portable and which is like. Thank you so much, Dennis. I was expecting probably like Dennis Strenk University, or probably Dennis School of Pathology or something like that. But
Well, that would be the other thing. Like I had thought about this one too. Like, through the if the podcast grows as big as I'd like it to grow, uh, to sponsor some scholarships
yeah,
for pathologist assistants, other people in the laboratory field, things like that. So that's what that would be probably second.
yeah, that's awesome. Again, the crowdfunding part,
Hmm.
um, which is like, which is good. Uh, I again, this last sentence which you mentioned also reminds me about this particular. I wanted to share this because these guys had been through crowdfunding. LinkedIn founder, I mean, the one who created LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, he also is one of the investors. I don't know if you heard about this couple. They've created this curl mix, which raised over 1 million dollars within 4 hours. This is like in through crowdfunding.
Wow.
So they had been through. They ran a campaign for a VFunder. I wanted to share this with you because that is true. This is absolutely possible. Um, with pathologists worldwide, with pathologist assistants or people in research, everybody. So if you go to VFunder Curl Mix, you can see that these guys, they declined the offer on the Shark Tank series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They they've been offered 25 million on Shark Tank, which is like 25%. They had an amazing story. I mean, both the couple right out of college.
Hmm.
Uh, he also won 100,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So
Nice.
these guys, a very true story. Just like any teenager out there. Uh, this reminds me that definitely after, with whatever the episodes which you are doing, let it be 100 episodes or uh, 200 episodes or 300, 500 episodes, I could certainly feel that you will be able to crowdfund. I'll ping you this particular link. This amazing story, inspirational, quite inspirational.
Okay.
I mean, going through that definitely would give great ideas for you and your spouse in the field of dental, being as a dentist. You mentioned, right? So I'm a little pumped up. I'm getting mixed with too many thoughts, but thank you so much, Dennis. This is an awesome conversation which I had with you. It's been quite a long time that I never had such a deep conversation with any other physician out there. But thank you so much for sharing all the details. And for anybody who is watching the replay, do share your feedback. We will also create small bites of this entire podcast and share it over social media. And is there anything which you want to share, Dennis, as a last minute, or probably you want to share any other details which we have missed?
Um, no, I don't think so. I mean, if anybody is interested in being a pathologist assistant and being, in the field that I'm in, um, definitely, like you showed that the AAPA website, definitely check that out. It's a great field. I love it, and there's still such a demand for us, and the field keeps expanding into new opportunities. So I can't recommend it enough. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Dennis. And
Yeah.
I guess people can always reach you by just Googling People of Pathology, right?
Yep. That's right.
I mean, there's nobody out there uh, uh, with the word People of Pathology such. great
I hope not.
keywords. And there's nobody out there. I mean, I just Googled people of pathology, and the first thing in India which pops up is your Twitter handle or probably the LinkedIn, again, the People of Pathology podcast. And
Right.
trust me, for all the listeners out there, if you are listening to Direct Shift Stories for over a year, in fact, in the past, probably 6 months ago, we had few openings on Direct Shifts with a couple of our clients, everybody looking out for pathologists and pathologist assistants. And we never, though I pinged dozens of pathologists over LinkedIn, everybody said they're too busy, they don't have time. And thank you so much, Dennis, for accepting our invite and for sharing your journey with us, and for sharing all the insights.
Oh, you're welcome, Raj.
Uh,
I appreciate the invitation. This was a lot of fun.
thank you so much. And I'll see you with another episode of Direct Shift Stories. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye bye.